Hey boys and girls, this is Miss Matthews and I'm going to do the first part of lesson 22 on pages 354 and 355 with you today, and we're interpreting visual information. So let's start out on page 354 and let's look at our learning target at the top. It says, by figuring out information that is shown in charts or other visuals, you will gain a clear understanding of a topic in an informational text. Read. While reading informational text, you often see photos, diagrams, let's underline that bolded word, and timelines. These visuals explain ideas about a topic that words alone cannot. You might also see graphs with quantitative information in the form of numbers or other data. If you come across a special text feature, figure out its purpose. Ask yourself, what information does it give? How does it work together with text details to add to your understanding of the topic? Read the text and study the bar graph. Figure out how the graph helps you understand the text. Now, we see a lot of these, especially bar graphs, and different things in math. So you see a lot of those. You see timelines a lot in history and social studies. Diagrams, you see those a lot in science. So all these are found in other subjects, not just reading. So that's why you need to be familiar with these types of visual aids. Okay, so let's read down at the bottom. A few months ago, I helped my science teacher set up a fish tank. The tank has 3 types of fish. We put in just 2 of the largest type of fish and many of the smaller types of fish. The tank is large enough to follow this rule. And I'm going to underline this rule because I'm going to probably have to use that again. So each fish needs about 1 gallon of water to be healthy. All right, now let's go over here and let's look at my bar graph. Okay? All right, at my bar graph, we see the title, fish in a fish tank. And over here on the side, this tells us our number of fish. It's labeled, it's counting by 2. So we start here at 0, go up to 2, 4, 6, all the way to 10. And then down here at the bottom is our types of fish. So we have an angelfish, a Dineo fish, and a tetra fish. So if I look at my angelfish, I go up and that tells me there are 2 angelfish in the fish tank. If I look here at the group in the middle, the Dineo fish, that tells me that there are 8 fish in that fish tank of that type. And then over here, there are 6 tetra. But look at what all you can figure out just by looking at the bar graph. It tells you the types of fish. It tells you the number of those fish that are in the fish tank. So I found out all that information just by looking at my bar graph, that they didn't tell me that in my reading. So you see how these two relate to each other, how this bar graph enhances the reading, how it helps with your reading. Okay, so let's go over and let's look at my questions. I've already gone through and I have answered some of the questions. So let's look at these. It says, were you able to interpret or figure out the information in the text and the graph? From the details, you should have a good idea of how many fish are in the tank and what kinds of fish live in it. Use the passage and the graph to fill in the chart below. So what the text says. So what the text says was that the tank has 3 types of fish. And if I refer back to my bar graph, remember it told me what those 3 types of fish were. So the 3 types of fish are the angelfish, the Dineo fish, and the tetra fish. Okay, the text just told me there were 3 types, but if I looked at my bar graph told me what those 3 types were. Okay, so let's go down again. We just put in 2 of the largest type of fish. So that tells me that whatever number is 2, whatever fish is equal to 2, that those are my larger fish. Those are my largest fish. So if I go back to my bar graph, and if I remember the angelfish, there were only 2 of those. So if we look over here at what the graph shows, there are only 2 angelfish. So the angelfish must be the largest type of fish. So see what you can figure out from your bar graph. Our passage didn't tell us that the angelfish were the largest fish. It just said they put in only 2 of the largest types of fish. But by looking at my bar graph and knowing that there's only 2 angelfish, that tells me that those are my larger fish. Okay, all right, let's look at our talk here. It says, compare the information in your charts. What inference can you draw about the minimum number of gallons the tank should hold? Use information from the text and the graph. Draw a picture of the fish in the tank to help you answer. Now, I didn't draw a picture. You know, I'm not an artist. So I did not draw a picture, but I looked at this question and I went back to my chart. Okay, so let's go back to our chart. Let's go down a little bit. My passage. And if I go over, remember this that I underlined? Each fish needs about 1 gallon of water to be healthy. So, if each fish needs a gallon of water, I've got to figure out how many fish I've got in all, don't I? So I'll know how many gallons. So I know I've got 2 angelfish. I've got 8 of the Dineo fish and 6 of the tetrafish. So if I add 2 plus 8, I get 10. And then 10 plus 6 gives me 16. So if I go back to my talk box here, I'm going to draw 2 large fish, which are my angelfish, and 14 smaller ones. And if there are 16 fish in all, how am I going to answer my question? How many gallons am I going to have? 16, because each fish needs about 1 gallon each. So see how you were using a little math in that question as well? Remember, we tell you that when you have visual aids and things like that, to always look at them because they're always important, because look at all the information that you found just by looking at your bar graph. Your text and your bar graph work hand in hand together. They're going to help each other out, okay? And that's what we're going to be doing this week. We're going to be looking at different types of visuals. All right, so let's look down here at our academic words. We've got diagrams, big word, quantitative, timelines, interpret, visuals, and graphs. Okay, now I want you to go ahead and do the next one, which is features of the ocean floor. So you'll be ready when the next video comes and you'll already have your answers up, okay? All right, y'all have a great afternoon, and the next video will be up tomorrow.